What's up, YouTube? My name is Joey. Welcome back to the channel. I'm a longtime competitive card game player and collector, and lately Riftbound TCG has reignited my passion for card games like no other game's been able to do in recent history. So today what I want to do is go over my favorite set 1 combos with you guys. Now keep in mind, this video is coming out before we have the entirety of set 1 revealed, so I'm not going to go over every single possible set 1 combo in this video. I'll probably do a part 2 to this after we get the entirety of set 1 revealed. But at any point in time, if I don't mention a combo that you know and love, please do let me know down in the comments below. We'll talk about it. But anyways, let's go ahead and get right on into the combos. So firstly, I want to preface this by saying that I'm going to try to avoid super obvious in-your-face combos. So no Chemtech Enforcer into Flame Chompers. That's like literally how they were intended to work together. I'm going to try to go over combos that are a little bit more intricate, a little bit less obvious, but still really worth shedding some light on. So the first one I want to go over is actually a little bit of a twofer. We're talking about Vi Destructive. So Vi works with a couple of cards in really cool ways. So via her effect to buff herself up, she works really well with Sky Splitter, especially in decks that don't ramp or play really high power cards normally. So if you can get her up to 8 power, she's enough to use Sky Splitter for free, which could be viable in a Jinx deck, for example, that wouldn't normally play super high cost units on their own. And the second card that Vi combos really well with is Kadrigan the Dragon. So this is another card that, again, you would normally play in a deck like Volibear, where you would also play Sky Splitter, but you can tech Kadrigan in any deck that plays Vi because you can buff Vi up enough to get an additional draw when playing Kadrigan. So this opens up routes of play for different red decks that don't normally want to ramp but might want the option to play big bodies or draw cards or use Sky Splitter for free. So I think that Vi combos with these cards in a really cool way. Next up, I want to talk about Hidden Blade plus Immortal Phoenix. Now, Immortal Phoenix combos really well with a ton of cards, but the main thing that I want to highlight here is Hidden Blade because of the flexibility it introduces. Immortal Phoenix specifically says when you kill a unit with a spell, not when you kill your opponent's unit with a spell. That means that you can use Hidden Blade on your own card, like we do see people do sometimes, just to draw 2 cards, and then you can play your own Immortal Phoenix from your trash. So I think that's a really cool combo, really flexible, really versatile. Obviously, you can combo Phoenix with any card that removes your opponent's cards and replay it from the trash. But I think specifically Hidden Blade, it's a really cool way to generate some draw power and actually not lose board presence. The next combo I want to highlight is the Lee Sin Legend with the Mistfall gear. Now this might be a little bit more of an obvious one, but I've seen a lot of Lee Sin builds that don't lean into this, and I understand why. It is very heavy on power costs, especially when you're playing power cost units and then using Mistfall in the same turn. You are resetting 2 power per turn, so you probably want to introduce a third card to this combo, which is the Orange Seal. However, with Lee Sin's leader ability to buff any unit you control and Mistfall's ability to switch any newly buffed unit to active mode, you can essentially play a deck that is all haste creatures or all immediate attacking speed creatures, which can be really powerful. Once again, it's a little rough that you're setting yourself back a turn every single time you do this if you don't have a seal in play, but I do think there will be dedicated Lee Sin builds that are going to do this more often than not, just because it is really powerful in the right circumstance. It's a deck that I've been testing, a deck that I really like, so I wanted to shout it out here for any of you guys that weren't trying it out. The next one's a card that I think has potential to be problematic down the road just from like a foresight perspective, and that's Portal Rescue. So what Portal Rescue does is it banishes one of your units and then replays it in your base. The key part there is that it replays it. So what that means is you should be able to get to re-trigger any on-play effect that the unit has that you're replaying with Portal Rescue. So what does this work well with now? Not too many things, but again, as more powerful on-play cards come out, this Portal Rescue card's only going to get stronger because you're essentially replaying that card for 3 power and 1 blue cost. So right now, this could work well with Kadrigan to generate extra draws. This could work well with Harness Dragon to remove extra units on your opponent's board. And this could also work with a new purple dragon that was just revealed yesterday that has your opponent discard cards in their hand. That could be an interesting combo in Teemo, for example, which we know already leans towards more of like a control strategy. So maybe that'll be a route that people actually end up trying. But definitely keep your eye on Portal Rescue. Pick up your foil copies early if they are cheap, because I can definitely see a universe where if things aren't kept in check, this can be a very powerful card down the line. Next up, we have Teemo Strategist and Nocturne. Now, this is probably another one of a really well-known combo, but I just wanted to shed light on it because it's so scary to play against. I mean, firstly, I've seen some Teemo builds not even playing Nocturne, which is crazy enough, but you have to worry about the fact of whether or not they're even playing Nocturne. And then when you do attack into one of the battlefields that they control, you know they're probably going to flip that Teemo, and then they're going to look at the top 5. Firstly, you have to worry about the damage they're assigning to your units. If they flip 5 hiddens, which is not the most likely, but if they do, they're killing a 5 cost right there on the spot, and then they also have the potential to drop a Nocturne for an additional 4 power. It makes those battlefields almost impossible to attack into if they hit everything correctly. Obviously, that's not always going to happen. I mean, there's only 3 Nocturnes in a 40 card deck, but I mean, when it does happen, it's going to lead to a little bit of a feels bad, and it is a card game. There's always going to be some element of RNG involved. As a Teemo player, sometimes you won't hit the Nocturne, that'll feel bad. As the opponent, sometimes they'll hit 3 Nocturnes, and that'll feel really bad, but still a really cool combo. Look out for more things with vision, more things to stack your deck, and eventually more cards that maybe will do things when you excavate them off the top. That might be a whole strategy we get some point down the road with Nocturne. That could be kind of cool. Next up is the Flurry of Blades combo with Warwick. Now, Warwick says when you play him, he enters ready, and when you attack a battlefield, he automatically kills all units that have any damage assigned to them. And Flurry of Blades, what does it do? It deals 1 damage to every unit at a battlefield. Very powerful combo, a 2-card combo that can instantly take over any battlefield. Definitely good for late game scenarios. And honestly, I also want to shout this out because I feel like I was undervaluing Warwick as a card on its own, because it's still a 5 power with haste, and I was really just evaluating it with its ability to clear battlefields. But having the ability to really rush into a battlefield if they have a low power guy, or even if you want to just take a point really quickly or maybe wrap up the game with it. I mean, haste guys are good for just that, wrapping up and grabbing the last point when your opponent doesn't expect it. So while this combo is a really good one, I also wanted to shed a little bit of light on my boy Warwick, who is the first ever League of Legends champion that I ever played. I have a special spot in my heart for this guy. Still a very good card, very good combo, cleans up any battlefield for the most part. Next up, we have Cyria of Cloud and Wildclaw Shaman. Now, I'm using Wildclaw Shaman as more of a placeholder than anything because there are a ton of cards that Cyria of Cloud combos with, specifically because of how ordering chains in this game works, to the best of my knowledge. If you don't have a buff on Cyria, you can play Wildclaw Shaman and order it in such a way where Cyria gets the buff, and then Wildclaw Shaman can consume the buff and restand. Vice versa, if Cyria already has a buff, you can play Shaman, consume the buff, and then trigger Cyria to now gain a buff since she doesn't have a buff after Shaman resolves. There are a lot of cards that do neat things like this, like Albus is another card that really works well with Cyria, where you can just like reestablish your buff immediately. There are lots of cards, and I'm sure there will be more cards that are going to work really well with Cyria of Cloud, which is going to make her a absolute staple. Another really cool card that pairs well with Cyria is going to be Kraken Hunter. I mean, if you can establish 3 Cyrias and they all 3 have buffs, you can consume all 3 buffs, play Kraken Hunter for no power cost, and give them all buffs again. I mean, that's not very likely going to happen, but it is something that could happen if you had the setup. Basically saying the more Cyrias you have on board, the better Kraken Hunter is going to be value-wise, because you're getting those buffs immediately back. Speaking of buffs, the next combo I want to talk about is Kiana plus any card that could buff her. This could be the Lee Sin Leader. This could be Arena Bar. This could even be Master Yi, just allowing her to gain +2 when she defends. Kiana is by far my favorite card in the game because it's absolutely just packed with value. I mean, conquering, drawing a card, or getting a rune if you need to, the choices, the decision making, the value, absolutely chef's kiss. Such a great card. But the 4/4 makes it a little more on the fair side, right? So having the ability to buff it, making it a 4/5, or again, in the case of Yi, making it a +2 on defense if it defends alone, makes the card a little bit overstated, easier to defend, easier to keep around, and easier to generate more value off of. Did I forget to mention too, the deflect? The card is just insanely good, and it gets better when you have leaders or strategies that can increase her power. And last but not least, we have the combo of Invert Timeline and Consult the Past. Now, this is a bit of a weird one because I haven't seen many Teemo lists lean into this combo. Like, I kind of thought that they would, to be honest. You know, it makes perfect sense on paper, right? We have Invert Timeline, resetting your hand and both players drawing 4 cards, but then you have a hidden Consult the Past that can activate outside of your hand and add 2 additional cards to your hand. So by the time you activate an Invert Timeline and a Consult the Past that was hidden after that, you can have 6 cards in your hand to your opponent's 4, setting you at a really great advantage. However, most Teemo lists don't actually play Invert Timelines. And I think the reason for that is it's a more passive deck. You don't always play out everything that's in your hand, so you're just passively building up card advantage to where you don't really want to discard your hand with Invert Timelines. I mean, maybe there'll be some matchups where this ends up being a good combo, and then you end up trying it out for those matchups. But in general, it's not something that is being utilized as much as I thought it might be. And that just goes to show you that in card games sometimes things will seem broken on paper. We might read a card during reveal season and say that's absolutely broken, it needs to be banned, oh my goodness. But in reality, in practice, might not be all that good, or vice versa. There might be cards that read horribly, but for some reason they just fill this niche in a deck that absolutely needs it, and it ends up being a really key component. So I guess we'll end this one on a classic lesson. Don't judge a book or a TCG card, in this case, by its cover. All right, guys, there you have it. Those are a bunch of my favorite combos in set 1 with what we have revealed up to July 15th. Again, we're getting the rest of the cards in just a couple days, so there'll be more combos to talk about very, very soon, which I'm very excited about. Let me know in the comments below which of these combos are your favorite, or again, any combos that I might have missed, and we will see you in the next video. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe.